I'm Amanda, and this is Not Your Granny's Quilt Show. Welcome, everybody, to today's episode. I'm so excited because I have Becca of Sew Becca on today. She has great YouTube channel going on out there. She has live quilting or just kind of live sit and sew every Friday night. She puts out great tutorials and content that just helps people improve their quilting and sewing skills, and it's just was so great to actually get to talk to her and meet her, and I really hope you guys enjoy the conversation. She's a woman after my own heart. She went into education and she loves everything tech, and so just that merging of quilting and tech and like kind of upgrading your experience as a quilter is just right up my alley. And so she speaks to that and her pattern writing and her video making, and it's just was a fun conversation. So I hope you enjoy. Hi, Becca. How are you?
I'm good, Amanda. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I'm so excited to chat with you and get to know you.
I am excited to be here. I heard about your show from a friend of mine. She
Mm.
was telling me that you were looking for guests. And so I was new to the whole world of quilting podcasts, but I gotta say, I went back and started listening to some of them. And I'm really excited. I'm not caught up. I'm still behind. I have this thing about podcast. When I pick up a podcast, I want to hear
Yeah.
all of them in the order that they were done. So I'm
Oh.
still like a couple years ago, but I'm
Mm.
catching up.
Okay. Well, welcome to the evolution of Amanda. Um, I love I do the same thing. I want to know how they got to where they're at now versus like just kind of hoping that I can like catch up on inside jokes or whatever, like know what fans are talking about. And so it's fun to me to like witness the evolution of
Yeah.
the hosts and like what's going on with the show and how it kind of settles into what it is now. And so I'm hoping that that's evident in mine, but
It is. And I've listened to a couple of the recent episodes, and I can't remember which ones they were, but I
Mm.
did listen to a couple of recent ones, and I was like, wait a minute, where's the other girl? It was Amanda and another girl, and now it's just
Oh,
Amanda. So I
yeah.
haven't gotten to like how you've evolved yet, and that's okay. I enjoyed both formats, so it was great.
Oh, good.
So if you've just found it, go back and listen to the old ones too.
Yeah, yeah, Miranda was there. She's one of my quilt besties, and so, but I'll let you listen. We do talk about it. So, um, yeah, fun. Well, thank you for listening, and I appreciate you being here. And it's all, yeah, it's all kind of a whirlwind, but um, well, before we get too far into anything else, I want to know how you got started quilting. Like, I
Mm.
mean, yeah, what's your story?
Well, there's fabric and there was thread, and they needed to go together.
Yeah.
There was
Right.
that. No, so I had a lot of I've always had a desire to be creative.
Mm.
And I've tried to find outlets to use that creativity. I've done scrapbooking, I've done beading, I tried crocheting, which I like to call crocheting because whatever.
Yeah.
I've tried knitting and none of them really stick. I'm not stuck. None of them really stuck. And I'm not super great at any of them.
Mm.
They fed my creative juices for a little while, but it didn't really stick.
Mhm.
And all along at the same time, I had people telling me you should try sewing. And all I could think back to were the days of home ec in seventh grade where I had to make the little pillow. And the idea of understanding how a sewing machine worked was not something I was interested in. And I
Yeah.
definitely was not interested in sewing by hand um, until, because there's always an until, right?
Right.
Until I had a friend that was hosting these sip and sews. You brought your own beverage
Mm.
and she taught you a project and you got to borrow one of her three or four machines. She brought the materials and it was always a quick sew. And I thought, well, this might be a good way to get to know some other ladies from the area. I'm going to go.
Yeah.
So I went that night. I made like a snap wallet for a gift card. And
Mhm.
full disclosure, I think she did 90% of the work. But I really enjoyed something about operating the machine and I got
Mm.
excited about that. So that weekend I went to Costco with her because I didn't know what I was doing. I
Yeah.
bought myself a brother machine,
Mm.
picked up a few yards of fabric from Joann's, and I just started trying to make things. When
Yeah.
I started, my goal was to do things that were practical because I could not envision doing things that weren't practical. So I wanted to
Mhm.
make bags. I wanted to make gift card holders. I wanted the quick sews, the pot holders. I wanted to try to make clothes for my daughter. I failed. I won't do that again. But yeah, that's how I got started. She convinced me to join a sip and sew event with some ladies. I
Mhm.
went and I got bit by the bug and I wanted to sew some more.
Yeah. And how long ago was that?
It was before the pandemic by a couple of years, but what I'm fuzzy on is I can't remember if it was 2016 or 2017 or 2018. So somewhere around there.
Okay.
Let's say 7 years.
Sure. Okay. That's how long I've
Yeah.
been quilting too, so you're
Yeah.
good. The 7-year kinda situation. Yeah.
7-year
Well
itch.
yeah, right? The itch to sew some shit. Um, well, that's cool, yeah, like, I grew up crafty too, so I was around all the things. My mom has always sewn, but I was, like, always terrified to break her machine, so I would, like, just get so much anxiety about it. Like, I knew how because she had shown me, but I was like, "No, I'm good." Um, but yeah, like, I didn't start quilting for until 7 years ago, so it's that, like, 2017-ish time was, like, when I think more modern fabrics were coming out and being showcased, and, like, I saw Amy Butler fabric
Oh, yeah.
for the first time because my mom's friend would and she and her friend had started quilting a couple years before me, and she was like, "Look at this fabric," and I was like, "Shut the front door. I need all of it immediately." Just, like, the huge florals and the fun geometric prints and the bright colors, and then I saw Tula, and I was like, okay. I'm in. Put me in,
Yeah.
coach." Like,
It
so
I didn't start that way though. When I started, I was afraid of color. I didn't
mm,
want the bright color. I wanted anything that was earth tones.
okay.
And if I wanted colors, I went with pastels, which meant I was spending a lot of time looking at like juvenile prints, nursery
Mhm.
fabrics, because that's as colorful as I was going to get, like pastel pink,
Mm,
pastel purple. I didn't want anything bright. I didn't want anything in your face.
hmm,
And it's been an evolution that's gotten me to the point now where I'm like, oh, Tula's got a new line. Roar? Yeah, yes, please. I'll take some of that. Like, it's so interesting to watch that evolution because I was going from like, I started with, let's start with all the Civil War stuff. And
yep,
now I want nothing to do with that. Like, that's
right.
not my cup of tea. So yeah, it's interesting to see how everybody's taste evolves and who knows where you're going to be in 5 years. Like you probably still, I would say pretty colors, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild how things change so much and, like, it's, like, all print all the time to, like, all solids all the time, and now it's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
micro print," things are kind of changing, but I'm with you, like, I want now and I mean, even then and now still, like, I still want big, bright, fun, bold prints and things that make a statement, and I'll mix solids in to make those things pop, but, like and I love the look of solid quilts, I think they're beautiful, but I still gravitate towards print, like, I've
Yeah.
always had I've always been around fabric, but, like, with quilting fabric, I'm like, I want stuff that sings to me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
but
That's the fun part about it, right? Like it's so funny how you can have two different quilters sitting at machines,
mhm,
working on projects, whatever, but
mhm,
what makes each of them sing and what keeps calling them back to that machine is the fabric, right?
mhm.
I never wanted to touch solids. Now I like working with solids.
Mhm.
I never wanted to touch bright colors. Now I do, but that same set of fabrics might not inspire somebody else to make something. So
Right.
it's just fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
And it's so fun to see how one pattern, when you do it in a different set of fabrics, can take on a whole different look.
Yeah. Yeah. They get whole different personalities, right?
Hmm.
It's so
Hmm.
crazy. I love it. So you're pretty known for your free motion quilting, and I am terrified of free motion quilting still, even though I long arm for everybody all the time. I use my computer. Um,
Can I have your computer? That would be great.
uh, no, it was expensive. I'll keep it, thank you. But you can come play with it if you want to. Um, it's It's fun. But I think it's one of those things where it's like if you only free motion, you kinda envy the computer, and if you have a computer, you kinda envy free motion, so, um, but yeah, I would just love to be better at all of it, like I mean, I'm pretty good with digital and I do custom with digital and all that stuff. And I'll do
Ooh.
some free motion to fill in where I just don't feel like I have a good digital design, but um yeah, it's so yeah, I just want to know like what drove you to get into the free motion and what machine you're working with and all the things about your quilting.
Sure. Well, I don't actually consider myself a professional long armor because I won't do commission work for anybody. I do it for either charity quilts or for myself.
Mhm.
I have a HandiQuilter Amara. I absolutely love it. And the reason why I went into free motion is because I couldn't afford the automation.
Mhm.
That's the end game, right?
Yeah.
I wanted a long arm because I did not want to baste quilts. I hate basting a quilt.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get it on the frame. So I bought a long arm that had a decent throat space on a 10-foot frame. So I didn't get the super big one.
Mhm.
And the reason why I chose to get the one that I did is because it gave me a good sized throat space. So I felt like I could quilt a whole block, but
Mhm.
I skipped out on the automation because I felt like I could always add that later.
Yeah.
I didn't need it right away. And so that's kind of morphed into, I've had the long arm for probably about 3 or 4 years now. That's
Okay.
kind of morphed into me just playing around with the long arm. And if I'm going to get a quilt done, it's not going to do it itself because there's no automation on it. So I've got to learn how to embrace some of those stitches. I
Yeah.
don't know that, well, I know I'm no Angela Walters. It's I I I feel like I have progressed, but I still feel like I don't know enough and I'm
Mm.
not confident enough to do a lot of the quilts. So you get to the machine and you sit down, you're thinking, okay, well, you don't have a repertoire of designs to look at. You got to go from your memory. What
Right?
do I know how to do? I can do a loop. What can I build off of the loop? I can build a flower. I can build a leaf. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Um, I
Yeah.
do like to watch a lot of videos though, and that helps give you inspiration for some of those stitchings. And I'm looking off to over here because that's
Yeah.
actually where the long arm is, and I have lots of sandwiched quilt practice pieces over there that maybe I should actually keep so I remember what I can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I imagine that's tricky too, because it's like, yeah, for me, like I've got a computer program, so I can just open up. Like I kind of know what designs I have, but like seeing them being able to pull open a catalog and look through to choose designs is definitely helpful. So if you're working on a design with free motion, it would make sense. Like you could create your own kind of like physical catalog of samples of what you worked on.
Yeah.
Just put them on like those big binder clips.
Yeah, you could. And I've seen friends who have taken like little quilt sandwich pieces and pinned them
Yeah.
up to their wall.
Oh.
What I've been doing lately is on my iPad,
Hmm.
I'll pull open GoodNotes or OneNote or some note-taking app, and I just use my Apple Pencil
Oh yeah.
to just draw out a little bit of the design. If I'm not practicing it and I'm just doing it to trigger my memory that this is something I can do, all I need is just one sheet of paper in that note-taking app to show me what it looks like, and then I can be off and running. And that serves as a nice, tidy way to carry those around. So that's
Nice.
what I've been doing for now. But the problem is I go over there and practice and I start stitching something out and then I forget to go and put it in my iPad.
Yeah. Right. It's like
It's
all
a
the
problem.
steps. Yeah.
Yep. But you said you had the automation, and that intrigues me. So there's one thing, I
Mhm.
think you alluded to this. I want to be able to do this. I love tech. I like anything IT related, and I really
Mhm.
like it when quilting and tech kind of combine.
Yeah.
So in my head, it would be so fun to get the automation on the machine, not so that I can do edge to edge quilting designs, but so that I can plot out a block and
Mhm.
have an element quilted in that one piece of the quilt. You get the perfect look
Mhm.
with the custom feel,
Yep.
and you get to play with tech.
Yeah.
How great is that?
It's super fun. I have an educational technology master's, and so I've not ever like, not always really been into it, tech and stuff, but, like, it's always kind of been around. My dad's a computer dude. We've always had, like, game consoles and that kinda thing, and then my husband's very techy, loves computers, loves consoles also. He builds stuff, it's like it's always been around, and so when s I actually was teaching at a STEM summer camp, that my brother got me a job at, which was it was so fun. But we used like Raspberry Pis and makey and like used all these different techie things. And then with my master's, I was like, well, that would be a fun thing. Like, and then I promptly quit teaching, but it's fine. But yeah, that like the confidence I got from doing all that is really like I think you just have to be able to like fuck around and find out, push some buttons and see what happens. And like not on other people's quilts, but like if you've got your own or just like a test sandwich or whatever, it's been really fun to learn. And like unfortunately the education that we got with the machine wasn't great. And so we actually took a class from somebody who is independent of the company itself, but knows the program inside and out that we have. And he travels the country and teaches, like he'll teach small groups. And that one class changed everything for me. And when I realized like how I could digitize my own, you can go, we have it's part of that program is called Pattern CAD. And so you open it up and you can use your pencil and you can draw and it'll either mirror things for you. You can set it up to do certain things or you can kind of do it sloppy because it'll help you smooth out your nodes and like do all the things. And so I've digitized a couple of different designs for custom quilting, but for the most part, I just kind of use what's there, like what we have or what we've purchased. But yeah, it's so fun. It's
Yeah,
so fun.
like that's my goal, right? Like full disclosure, I financed the long arm. It's almost paid off. Woo woo.
Woohoo!
And once it's paid off, that the next step has always been either to save up the cash and pay for it cash down or to finance the purchase of the automation. So I feel like that's around the corner for me.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about that. And I'm excited about all the things that that could open up because, like I said, like, I think part of this whole millennial quilting, modern quilting is starting to just look at how you can make quilts differently. It doesn't have
Mhm.
to always be with the traditional, okay, I'm going to cut out a cardboard template and I'm going to use scissors to cut it out. That's how
Right.
we got the rotary cutter. That's how we got the ruler. Well, now we have long arms. Now we have
Yes.
computerized long arms. Like,
Yeah.
let's use those to elevate what we're doing. It's
Mhm.
not always just about making it faster. It's about
Right.
using technology to do things that I would never, I can't draw.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to do that. So it's just, it allows me to scratch that itch and I'm excited about it. I'm really excited about that. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, I'll cross my fingers for you because it's honestly been so fun and just being able to yeah, like that consistency, I think, especially when you're quilting for other people, which you said you don't, which I fully respect because it's so much work. But
Listen, I
um
hear the nightmares from my friends who do it for other people.
mm,
Every so often, I'll be like, oh, I could, if I got the automation, I could offer quilting. And then I hear the nightmare and I'm like, nah,
oh,
I'm good. I'm set.
um
Thanks.
yeah, yeah. It's, things have happened, but like honestly, we've been really lucky and had really great customers and any kind of issues it's just been like on our end and things that we needed to fix, but we've had really gracious clients who are like willing to work with us and let us fix our mistakes. And so it's a learning thing for sure. And but anyway, like the consistency I think is really nice. And although you still have to monitor your machine, I think sometimes it's that work smarter, not harder kind of thing of like quilting is taxing on your body,
Yep.
whether you're just in a chair because you're sewing a million things together and you're just sitting, that's hard on your body. Or if you're just standing in front of your long arm because you're quilting something big, that's hard on your body. So it's
Yep.
like the rotary cutter. And now there's like even more ergonomic ways to do this, right? Like
Yep.
ergo hand
Yep.
rotary cutters and special handles to help you put pressure even pressure on your rulers. Wow, I cannot talk. Woo! Or even pressure on your rulers. And same with long arming, the automation allows you to provide consistent, beautiful work while not wrecking your body in the meantime. And so, um, like I'm appreciative for all these upgrades and these inventions, right? The ingenuity of humans is just like so cool because it's helping us do the thing we love just better and be able to do it for longer because we're saving our bodies. And
Yeah.
I think that's a care thing, like a self-care thing I think we forget about when we're crafting is like actually sitting like that is gonna come back to haunt you in 5 years, or holding your rotary cutter that way is gonna fuck up your wrist and you're gonna have to change how you do things. Like,
Mhm.
it's gonna impact you in the long run, and so my mom and I discussed that when we were getting our long arm, like, because it was like, "Oh my god, another $10,000. We're already getting, like,
Yeah.
the Cadillac of the machines on that line," and so we were like, "Do we do it?" And we kind of were like, "Oh, we'll go back and we'll sleep on it." We went to a quilt show in Utah to go get it, like, because we're like, "Okay, we're gonna do this," and knew that the dealer was gonna be there, so we went to Utah and went to the show and talked to the rep, and we were, like, about to sign papers, and we're like, "We just need to think about it," and then, like, that night, my husband was like, "If you guys are gonna be doing this as a business, like, are you really
Let's do
gonna
it.
wanna stand over everybody's quilt for hours and hours every day to
Yep.
do it yourselves?" And we were like, "No," and he's like, "Okay, so get the computer, like, what's the worst that could happen?" Like, we're
Yep.
splitting it 50-50, my parents and then us, like, "Okay, so we pay for a machine that you guys really wanted." Like, "Okay,
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
worst. Okay, worst case scenario, or we sell it back to the company, like, worst case scenario." Like, who who's hurt in the end? And we're like, "Well, nobody." It's like he was just
And it's
kinda
not going back to the company. Like
right.
you're
Yeah, I'm like, "No, no, no,
so
we're
no,
keeping
you're
her."
in, you're in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
So
the
anyway
same thing happened when we moved. So a few years ago, we sold a small house and moved outside of we lived in Arlington, Virginia, and we
mm,
moved further out to the suburbs, bought a bigger home, and we converted our two-car garage into my sewing room. And it was
mm,
it was a it was a bit pricey, definitely more expensive than the long arm.
mhm,
When we did that, my husband had the same advice that you did. Just do it. When
yeah,
else are you going to do it? Like, just we have the money, spend it, do it, and enjoy it. And I am so glad that I did. And I almost wish, like, if I had to give anybody advice, I
mhm,
think me 2 or 3 years ago, I'd be like, just get the long arm. You don't need the automation right now. You can always add it later. Obviously, if you're on a budget and you can't afford it, just get the long arm, right?
yeah,
But if you're gonna finance it and you can afford those payments, get the
mhm,
automation. I wished I would have done it then.
yeah. Yeah, and I think, in that vein of thinking, it's like, okay, well, if you have to work your way to that automation, then for sure, like, but keep it in your plan because if you don't plan to continue free motion quilting forever, or you like the aspect of having more, it's almost more control because you can digitize and you
Yeah.
can, I mean, depending on the software you get, I'm not sure what HandiQuilter software is like, but
Me either.
You're like, "I don't either." Like, I should have checked it out closer. Like, I think because I'm, like, happy with my long arm and I'm not looking, I, like, never really stop by the other long arm booths because I don't want them to think I'm, like, there to buy their stuff because 'cause I'm not,
I
but
stop at all of them just because
yeah,
I can.
yeah, I should. I really should just, like, get off my high horse and just get in there, but yeah, with what we have, we can digitize our own stuff, and I know, like, some of the other softwares out there have that capability, if not even better than what I have, and so, um, anyway, it's an exciting way to approach quilting, in my opinion, and I started out with free motion, like, I rented machines from my local shop,
Yep.
and we started out in that vein, and my mom and I were like, "This is small time shit. We need our own machine," you know? So, it
I
was
did that too. The
yeah.
local quilt shop that I have rents time on their handy quilters. And for my
Mhm.
birthday one year, my husband bought me the certified class, right? You
Mm.
get to go for a lesson and then they let you quilt one quilt with coaching. But
Yeah.
the problem with that is it's a 20-minute drive from the house to the quilt shop. I work a
Mm.
9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
They're open 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and then on the weekends. So that really means I have 52 Saturdays and 52 Sundays that I can work on quilts. But those Saturdays and Sundays, I also need to prioritize all the things that happen in my home and with my
Right.
family. And so that really reduces it. So
Mhm.
if I'm lucky, I might have a handful of Saturdays and Sundays each year that I could work on quilts.
Right.
I did not love that. Like, I wanted to be able to work on a quilt 20 minutes a day.
Mhm.
right? And so that's one of the things I love about my long arm. I can load a quilt up there and it can take me 3 months to do it if that's what I want to do, or it could take me 20 minutes. Like it just depends on what I want to put into it. So,
Yeah.
but it's mine. And
Right.
I don't have customer quilts waiting to go on the frame.
Mhm.
I also don't have to drive to it and I don't have to wait for somebody else's hours. I can do it around my schedule.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so nice. And that is the nice thing about having your own machine is the
Yep.
flexibility to just do it when you can and you don't feel pressured. And I think that was the thing is like, and I understand why it has to be that way at the shop. And it just felt rushed. Like I was always hurrying to get my quilts done. And then I was doing stuff on them that I didn't really love because I was just trying to hurry. And if the tension was off, or if the bobbin was nesting, or if something was going on, it was just like that's more time off of my that cost me money, not just my own time, but like actually it's costing me money because I'm on the
Yeah.
machine longer.
Yeah.
And so usually like they're pretty good of like, well, we know that this was an issue, so we'll take a half an hour off or whatever. Like they're pretty flexible that way. But it's like if there was a renter after me, I'd have to
Yeah.
get off the machine whether I would want it to be done or not, you know? So it just got to the point where we were not able to get in when we wanted to get in and I was still full-time teaching. So it's like I had my weekends and I had breaks every once in a while throughout the year and the summer, you know? So it's like
Mhm.
but it was very that time was very precious to me because again, like you, when you've got a 9 to 5 and you're not just quilting all the time, you have to find balance in all of it, especially if you've got a family and other people who need you for caring for themselves, you know?
Yeah.
It's hard. So I'm happy that you have a balance for yourself and that you've got your machine and you can do exactly what you want to do.
I don't
So,
do it as enough as often as I should. I spend probably more time piecing and making social media content than I do
mm,
actually long arm quilting. I do enjoy it,
yeah,
but there's only so many hours you have in a day.
right.
So
Yeah, definitely. Hmm. It's it's funny like it's funny how we'll like talk ourselves out of doing things we love to do because we like, well, I should do this. It's like I do that all the time. I'll be like, I'm gonna sew today. And I'm like, well, I should actually vacuum first. Oh, I should actually like I'll should myself right out of doing the thing I want to do. And it's it's a hard balance. And I like I've talked about it so much, so people are probably sick of it, but I don't care because I'm gonna scream it from the rooftops until it's not a thing. But like I think as millennial women, we feel, we're like stuck in the middle. It's like one foot
yeah.
in traditional, like care tasks of the home and being the cook and the cleaner and the caretaker of everybody and then one foot in the modernism of like owning your own business and making your own social media content and being a boss babe while also crying in the corner at night because you're just like I can't do all of it by myself while
It's
simultaneously
hard.
not asking for help either. So it is really hard. It's really
It
hard.
is.
And so I
I
admire
have
people
learned
who do it.
I have learned the power in saying no this year.
Mm,
Because I'll watch others doing things that I want to do, and I get fear of missing out because I want to do it too. And I know I can,
mhm,
but what I've learned is I can only, for everything, I just talked about this today with someone else, but for everything I say yes to, that means I'm going to say no to something else or
mhm,
some things else, right? And
right,
so if I'm saying yes to standing at the long arm to the point that we had earlier, then
mhm,
I'm saying no to testing a pattern that I'm writing. I'm saying no to piecing. I'm saying no to spending time with my husband. I'm saying no to recording and editing a video.
mhm,
So I want to make sure that if I'm saying yes to that, it is important enough to me to spend the time over there because I'm never going to get that time back.
yeah,
The hour I'm going to spend in front of the machine is gone. At the end of the day, I can get more fabric, I can get more thread, I can get
mhm,
more money. Like all of those can happen, but I'm never going to get my time back.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
just try to be more purposeful and more selective with what I'm doing. And it means that I'm not doing all the things that I want to do, but I am doing the things that I really want to do
yeah,
or
yeah,
have to do because
yeah,
got to earn a paycheck.
adulting, ugh. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that finding what's meaningful to you and where your values are, I think is where sometimes we falter, especially when we're trying in that people pleasing mode of like, well, I can't let anybody down and I've got to make sure everybody's happy before I take care of myself or do what I want to do, but also not just doing things because you're like, well, I guess I could do that for right now. But it's like, yeah, is that time going to benefit you in some way
Right.
that it was worth the yes to that? So, yeah, that's just like something to always be thinking about, right? Like,
Yep.
where is my time best spent? And like, sometimes it's just rotting in your bed, and that's okay. Like, if that is going to help you be more present and be able to do the other stuff that you've got to do,
Yep.
it can't be an all the time thing, I guess, but I
I
don't know.
mean, it can't
I
because
mean,
I can make it a time thing.
yeah, like, how can I
Doom scrolling every
sew?
morning.
I know, right? Like, how can I sew while laying down? That sounds fun. No, I'm
I
just kidding.
mean, a hand sew, but that's never gonna happen. So
No, I don't like that.
me
I know.
either.
Like, there'll be a solution someday, maybe. I don't know. But anyway, it's just an interesting kind of like constant juggle. And my like longtime childhood friend, she and I were kind of chit-chatting the other day because like our 20th high school anniversary reunion is this year. And we were like, "Are you going?" And I was like, "Well, I can't go to the like adult dinner one because we're gonna be gone." And
Right.
I was like, and I don't want her to go to the one this month because I don't have kids and I mean, I have my stepkids, but they're adults and like they're young adults and they're not interested in being put on display for people that I don't even interact with on a daily basis.
That's
You know
right.
what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
they're fine coming around my friends who are in our lives, but like people who I went to high school with, they would be like, okay, you know? And so we were talking about that and just like how finding time to do all the things and work and be a mom and, you know, all these things. It's just like when you find balance with one thing, it kind of throws something else off balance. And
Yes. Yep.
so,
I feel like I'm in a really good place right now where I feel zen. I have a balance
mm,
between YouTube. I have a balance between the quilting brand slash business, whatever, my nine to
yeah.
five, my family. But it just means that I like I don't like schedules. I
Mm,
don't like routines. I was actually just talking with my mom about this last night. Anytime I have something in my life that turns into a process and it becomes repeatable, like it's very mundane for me. So I throw it out and find another way to do it. But I am at a place where I almost have figured out, okay, the Sundays are my day to record.
mhm,
Sundays are my day to edit. This is my day for being able to test patterns. And I may or may not do it, and I might or might not stick to that schedule.
right.
But knowing that I have that time carved out for those things kind of helps keep all of the balls in the air and keeps
Mhm,
everything happy. So for right now, I'm okay, but maybe in
yeah.
6 months I won't be. We'll see.
We'll find out. It's a mixed bag. But I think that's the beautiful part of life is like you get to decide that. You get to choose what works for you. And if you want something different, then you get to have something different. And there's no one, I mean, besides your boss at your normal job, but like there's nobody who's gonna get in your way really if you really want something and want it to happen a certain way. Like obviously communication with your family members, whatever, but like ultimately, if you're a supportive bunch, then they'll support you and find out how to
Absolutely.
like make it work for everybody. And so I think that's kind of the coolest thing that I've kind of had to learn to embrace, but now I embrace it fully. It's just like things change all the time, and that's great. Like that's exactly what life is supposed to be. If everything stays exactly the same over time, like I feel like that's when people lose their minds. Like
Yeah.
they 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 do crazy big demonstrative things because they're like, I'm trapped. It's like, well, you trapped yourself, silly goose. Like, you know, coming from a judgy corner over here. But yeah, I think that realization is like, and it's that way for sewing too. I think I felt like trapped in a box for such a long time of like doing things a certain way. But the more I've like relaxed into myself and who I am, the easier it is for me to be like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. 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 For sure.
So, which sounds like you're grasping that too by the year of saying no.
The year of saying no, the year of saying no. And It's fine. Nobody's dying over here. So
Right.
we don't have I had the friend that taught me to sew used to have this saying. I'm gonna see if I can remember it. Um, she has 4 kids,
Mm,
and she used to tell them when they would come to talk to her about something, she'd say, "Is there blood? Is there a fire?" And then there was a third question she would ask them, and I can't remember what it was. But if the answer to those 3 questions were no, then it was not important. So
mhm.
I was like, "Is there blood? Is there a fire? No, no,
Yeah.
no. Oh, okay. Well, then this can be fixed."
Yeah. I would tell my students that same thing because if they were supposed to be working independently and I like
Yep.
really needed to write an email or something, I would I had like a little lamp thing on my desk or like a little light. And I'm like, if this is
Yeah.
on, that means I'm busy. Unless there's blood, fire, or vomit, don't talk like or zombies. Don't come talk to me.
Or
Like they were like zombies. I'm like, I'm just saying, like
you never know.
if it's not an actual if you have to go to the bathroom, we have the routine. If you need something like we have a you know what those things are, don't come ask me. Like unless someone's bleeding, you're barfing everywhere, or there's something's on fire, like you're good. Just leave me alone.
Let's define what emergency really is.
Yeah, they got pretty good. There was just the occasional like, um, can I'm like, I can't I think I hear a noise, but I don't know what it is. That's weird. And then I would go back to my computer. Like I was kind of mean, but also like, no, be independent. Like you know where things are. Like you've
Yep.
been in this classroom for 6 months every single day. You know where things are. Don't ask me. Anyway, so I feel that like on a deep level of like if there's no emergency, everything's fine. Everything's gonna
Yep.
be okay.
Yep. But that also goes back to just trying, right?
Mhm.
Mess it up, dig in. I don't know how many people I've talked to that, and maybe you've heard the same thing. They're like, oh, I can't do that. I can't foundation paper piece, or I can't free
Mm.
motion quilt,
Mhm.
or I can't sew. Well, no, nobody was born with any of that. You
No.
got to that place because you were willing to test. You were
Mhm.
willing to try something. You
Mhm.
were willing to mess something up to
Yeah.
get to the point where you are now. I think
Mhm.
I heard Jenny don't say that. So I have to like I just like fully credit that was where I
Yeah.
originally heard it, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
My daughter, my daughter is a bit neurodivergent, and I don't
Mm.
really talk about this a lot, but one of the struggles that she has, and she's learning to overcome it, but it's a journey for her.
Mm.
If she can't do something perfectly
Mm.
right away, she gets very frustrated with herself and shuts down. And she gets that honestly because I was like that
Mhm.
when my husband, or still am in some areas, when
Sure.
my husband and I started dating, I we went to this pottery painting place.
Mm.
I think it
Mhm.
was called like You Made It or something.
Mm.
And he has 2 kids from a previous marriage. So we took his kids and we went, just the 4 of us, and we were painting pottery. And I got this teapot. It's a 3-piece teapot. You had the lid, the teapot, and then underneath of it was a cup. And
Oh.
I was painting it, and I had this vision in my mind for what I wanted it to be. But as you're painting pottery, the paint dries, and it is
Mhm.
definitely not the color or texture that you're going to get at the end.
Yeah.
And I was getting very frustrated with myself because I didn't understand that. And
Mm.
so I was getting to the point where I was going to rage quit.
Yeah.
And my then boyfriend was
Mhm.
seeing all of this unfold, and he's just saying, just trust the process. It's
Mhm.
going to be great when it comes out of the kiln. It's going to look great. And I was like, no, you don't get it. This is a mess. It's horrible. I hate it. Dropped it off. They fired it in the kiln, and I picked it up a week later, and it was beautiful. Was it what I expected? No, but it was beautiful in a different way. And
Yeah.
so sometimes you just need to lean into that and try something and just trust the process. It
Mhm.
might not be what was in your head when you started thinking about it, but it might be something else. It might be a pleasant, beautiful surprise on the other end waiting for you.
Yeah. And the process, I think when you're expecting to walk into something and be perfect at it, it's like, no, you're missing the whole humanness of the
Yes.
thing, of the process of learning. That's
Yep.
where you grow. That's where you learn is in the process. It's not just getting to the end product because if you it's like cheating, you know, it's like if you just grab something from somebody else and say, "There, I did it." you miss out on the actually important part of it, you know? It's like,
Yeah. Yep.
why and I understand that wanting the thing in your head to come out and be its own living thing or its own, you know, work out in the world, but I've had to learn also to look at the process and appreciate the progress through the struggle, through
Yep.
the hard parts, and that to me is worth trying new things, is to just work through something to figure it out because the satisfaction that comes on the other side is great. And there's like I don't know where they got it from, but my husband and our oldest, they always talk about the types of fun. And there's like type 1 fun, type 2 fun, whatever. And type 2 fun is the thing where it's like something is real crappy in the moment. It's terrible at
Mm,
the time, but then at the end you're like that was so cool. Like and so they did like a 4-day backpacking hike like through um it's the Maroon Bells kind of area. It's outside of Aspen, Colorado. And so it took them 4 days and they went through these different passes and whatever, and it
mm.
was hard. And, for our son, obviously he's in his early 20s, so he's like, "This is great." And my husband's like, "I'm 50 and this hurts." And so it was just like a different perspective, right? But at the end of it and coming home and after he had some recuperation time, he was like, "That was really cool. It was beautiful. There's really great stuff to see." And, like, it was really hard at the time, but, like, I'm so glad I did it, it was that type 2 fun for him, and so, I think sometimes learning, new things and new skills, although, like, you see the finished product and you might think, "Wow, that person's so good at that," you don't see all the type 2
Struggle.
shit behind the
Yeah,
scene,
yeah,
and,
yeah,
like
and that type 2 stuff is what sometimes helps you get to the part where it's easier for you, which is
yeah,
what my daughter's starting to learn now, right?
yeah,
So those are the things that I'm also thinking about, and this is another thing that I say all the time with social media. When you
mhm,
see a quilter putting their work out there on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok, you don't see the imperfections that are there. You don't see the number of times that they pulled out the seam ripper to get that perfect point.
yeah,
Trust me, it didn't come easy. Trust me, it's not perfect.
mhm,
They were just willing to try. And a lot of times that camera angle is forcing you to look at it from that 30-foot galloping horse view, and it looks great. But if you
yeah,
get up close, sometimes it looks a bit like a Monet. It's all a mess. So give
yeah,
yourself the freedom to mess up because nobody out there is perfect in this.
right, for sure, and it's a good lesson for us.
I fully subscribe to that because I, for years, had people saying, "You should sew," and I said, "I will never sew."
Mm,
And now look at me. And even when
yeah,
I first started sewing, I wanted to do all the practical things. I wanted to
mhm,
make bags, I wanted to make the pot holders, I wanted to make things that were useful.
sure.
And my mom, actually, I got started quilting because my mom wanted to make blankets for all of her grandkids. And at the time,
Oh,
they were all smaller. So we got licensed panels, like a Disney panel, whatever,
yeah,
and I sandwiched them together, did
mhm,
the pillow turn thing, and I was like, there's a blanket, right? The batting in the middle, the back. I didn't know to make it a quilt sandwich and to put binding on. I had no clue what that even was.
mhm,
So we made that. And then after it was done, mom was like, well, we got to put some stitches on there to hold it together. So you could, let's just stitch it. Let's just quilt it. And I was like, okay. And she
sure.
said, you could even, what about, we had the one for my daughter had the three Disney princesses on it. And she was like, you
Mm,
could trace around the Disney princesses. And I was like, oh, that sounds great. And so in my little brother machine with the feed dogs up, I'm
yeah.
putting that blanket into the throat of the machine and I'm struggling to get around there, but I did it.
Yeah.
I did it. So I didn't even know that that was free motion quilting. I remember I went into the quilt shop like the next week or something. I don't remember when it was, but I remember the lady that was there was asking me if I liked free motion quilting. I was like, "What's that?"
Yeah. You're like,
She's
"What
like,
is
"Well, it's where you
this?"
yeah." She was like, It's like where you draw the stitches." I was like, and I was thinking back to, "Oh, I did that with the Disney princesses." And not the same thing, but yes, I get it. But even in that moment, right?
Mhm.
Even when I did that, she was like, "Have you ever thought about making a quilt?" And I was like, "No, I'm not making a quilt." And now it is the thing that I love to do. I don't make clothes. I'm not good at it. I don't want
Mm.
to do it. I don't make many bags. I like to make quilts.
Yeah.
That's what I like to do. So yeah, it's never say never because you never know what's gonna stick.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing. People are like, oh, do you sew because your mom does? And I'm like, no, that's silly. I don't do that. And just the way I would scoff, now I'm like, oh, joke's on me because that's all I want to do. And she was like, well, it's about time. Like, welcome to the club. And but yeah, so now it's fun that like it's something that we can do together and encourage each other to keep learning and keep growing and, like because I'm so inundated in, Quiltstagram and the social media side of things, I'm like, "Okay, you need to go follow this person." I'll like tell her like, "You need to go look at this, go look at this." And it's exciting. Like it's fun to like kind of bring her into this side of things because she's just always lived in that kind of like, yeah, clothes making and s- home decor, like practical things and being just in the quilty space of like and just seeing her creativity thrive is like so inspiring to me too. Like the woman can make anything out of scraps. Like she pulled some scraps the other day. She's like, I think I'm gonna make a baby quilt out of this. And I was like, how? And she was like, hold my beer and made a freaking baby quilt. And I was like, I just had to like sit back and just be like, okay, I clearly my brain doesn't function. So it's just funny, like our two different personalities and points of view of quilting is so big and so beautiful and there's just so much to it and so many different ways to do it that like it's just fun to see all the different ways and see how different people approach it and bring their personality to it. And so I think that's like where I love hearing about you doing it in a way that works for you. And I mean, you're talking about creating content and I do want to ask you what about creating content or like what drove you to start creating quilting content?
Oh gosh. Well, the first drive was my daughter was young. I want to say kindergarten aged. She's
Mm,
13 now, so 7, 8 years ago. She kept watching these YouTube channels, YouTube videos of people opening toys.
yeah.
And she wanted to make videos. And I had no clue how to help her. None. So I was like, well, I've got to figure this out. If this is what she wants to do, I've got to figure it out. And
Mhm,
so I pulled out my little phone and I recorded a video on how to change the needle on my sewing machine. And I did
mhm.
that because I love sharing knowledge. When I learn something, I want to shout it from the rooftops. I want to tell everybody. And I know that that can maybe come across a little aggressive, so I am aware about that. I am aware of that. Like I'm not trying to be bossy. I'm just excited to show you what I learned.
Yeah.
And I'm also excited because I know that the best way to remember something is if I can teach it.
Mhm.
So at that moment, I had just bought my sewing machine. My friend had showed me how to thread it, how to change the needle. She was giving me all these tips, and I was overwhelmed with information. So I was like, okay, I've got to do something to cement this in my brain. So
Mhm.
I made a quick and dirty video with my phone on how to change the needle. And I in my super excited journey to sew, had it in my head that I was going to buy a sewing machine for both my sisters. I was going to buy one for my mom. I was going to buy one for my sister-in-law. I was going to buy one for all my friends. And we were all going to sew. We were all going to be quilters. Well, quilters were not even a thing in my head. I didn't even know that existed. But we
Yeah.
were all going to sew and it was going to be great. But I had to show them how to change their needle because I needed to know how to do it. So I made that video and I put it on YouTube. And my intention was always to go back and make more tips,
Mhm.
more educational videos, because back in 2018, when I was starting to think about YouTube, that's what YouTube was. It was
Yeah.
how-to videos. How do I blank,
Mhm.
right? Now it's morphed and it's become something different. That's still there, but it's evolving, right?
Mhm.
So that's what I made, but I never got around to making another video. I made the one.
Mhm.
And over the course of about a year or so, that video was getting traction. It's not viral. It did not blow up, but it was getting views, a
Mhm.
good amount of views, and people were starting to subscribe. I think I got to like 200 subscribers over the course of a year, which is not a lot. It's not a lot. But because I wasn't uploading anything else, they were all coming from that one video. And
Yeah.
so I was like, well, all right, there's got to be something here. And
Yeah.
so I was very uncomfortable being in front of the camera. So
Mm.
I just decided to start by showing people things that I was getting in the mail. I wanted
Mhm.
to do unboxings, and it was really just top down, here are my hands. Let me show you what this is. And then as I was getting comfortable being in front of the camera doing that sort of stuff, the personality started coming out, and I just wanted to make jokes and make people laugh.
Yeah.
So I was kind of morphing both of those. But what I realized, what I learned is sometimes you make content that you think people are going to resonate with and they're going to
Mhm.
love, and they don't like it at all.
Yeah.
People didn't like not seeing your face. They wanted to see you. They wanted to talk to you. They wanted to feel a connection with you. And
Yeah.
so where I am now, I'm making content where I'm very comfortable in front of the camera, but it's taken me years to get here.
Mhm.
I wasn't yeah, I don't even know where I was going with any of that, but I
Yeah.
think the answer for the social media content is I started out with YouTube because I had a passion to teach people. I was super excited to share the knowledge that I was picking up. And
Yeah.
I wanted to learn how to navigate recording and editing videos because I thought my daughter wanted to do that. Turns out
Mhm.
she didn't. So
She's
it's
like,
all me
it's a
now.
joke. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's all me now. But yeah, it was in an effort to help her learn how to record and edit videos. I had a niche that I was learning, and I was just being real with my journey and fumbling
Mhm.
on camera.
Perfect. No, I think that's how a lot of people get started too, right? Like, I only have the equipment to do this and know how to do any of it because my husband started trying to
Yeah.
make not trying, he made a ton of videos. Like, he would do mountain biking stuff because our boys were in mountain biking in high school and they would go on trips and he would record their races and put videos together for the team and stuff. And he was just making silly content with the boys and with our family. Um, And, a lot of it was mostly just for us or just for the mountain bike team or whatever, um, but then I was like, "Well, you can teach me how to do all this so I can, like, make my thing," and getting comfortable in the front of the camera took time too, but because I had so much practice with his videos and things he was
Yeah.
making and wanting me to be a part of for fun, like, that helped a lot, and
Yeah.
it does take time
It
to, like,
does. It does.
be able to listen to yourself while you're editing. It's like, some days
Like
I'm
by the
like,
time
"No."
by the time I get through editing a video, the last thing I want to do is watch it all the way through again.
I
Because,
know.
and there's been moments where I really should have watched that video one more time.
Yeah.
Because once it's out there, it's out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. I'm the same. I'm like, "Do I really need to listen to myself talk anymore?" And then I'll come out of this office and be like, "I I have no words. I just need to be silent for an hour. Nobody let me talk."
Yeah. You
Mm.
definitely, I feel I do a live stream every Friday night for 2 hours on YouTube.
Mm.
2-ish hours, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less.
Mhm.
And I'll just work on whatever projects I have. It's not really a tutorial, it's just a way to connect with the audience, right? Like
Yeah.
if you can live stream a game, you can live stream sewing and quilting. So that's what I do.
Yeah.
Um, but every Friday night, like 10 o'clock, it starts at 8 o'clock Eastern time. So every Friday night around 10 o'clock when I end, I walk out of here and I go to bed because I'm
Mm.
done. Like, I don't want to talk to anybody else. I'm all talked out. Like, I'm keeping the energy up for 2 hours. It's done. Shut it down. At
Yeah.
least I don't have to edit the video. But
Right?
yeah, no, but I know like being in front of the camera is a different kind of energy, and it
Mhm.
does exhaust you. And then editing is another kind of energy that exhausts you in a different way.
Yeah, definitely.
I've seen an influx in quilters starting their own social media accounts to
Mhm.
share their passion and their quilting with the world. And there's seems to be an influx of smaller YouTube channels specifically that are starting to stand up and build out their content and find their niche and get comfortable in front of the camera and all the things that we had to do in the beginning too, right?
Yeah.
But one of the things that I hear from them is, I don't know how you do it. How do you keep up? Well, I do it because I love it. I
Mhm.
love creating a video. I like finding ways to slip a joke in there and make you laugh halfway through. I like showing you that I made a mistake and how I overcame it. That is just as much of a creative outlet for me as making the quilt,
Yeah.
as loading it on the long arm, as piecing it, as designing a pattern. They are all different outlets for me to be creative.
Mhm.
That's how, when I'm creating a video, when I'm storylining it, when I'm thinking in my head what it's going to be, when I record it, and then when I edit it, that is just as much as a creative therapeutic release as it is making a quilt.
Mhm.
And if it ever
Absolutely.
becomes not that enjoyable and not something I want to do, then it's time to hang it up, because I'm
Yeah.
not going to do something. I'm not, it all goes back to saying yes, right? I'm not
Mhm.
going to continue saying yes to something that brings me no joy.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Because then it's like, what's the point? The whole
Yep.
point you started it is because it's joyful and it's exciting to share what you learned and what you know to help other people. And if that's not fun anymore, then there's no point in forcing yourself. It's not like somebody's making you do it or
Right.
that you're creating that content because of someone else. Like, and I think that's a real conversation I had to have with myself about the podcast. Like, if I hit a wall and I just don't want to do it anymore, I'm just going to not do it. That's going to be the end of it. And I'm going to say, I'm done for now, kind of thing. Cause who knows, maybe I get an itch to do it again later, but I'm not there yet. I'm still enjoying it. And, there are times where I'm like, I just wish I didn't have to edit because again, it's that time thing. Like, I don't get those hours back, but I want the conversation out there and I want the person to be heard and I want to fulfill the agreements I made with that person by having that conversation. And so, there's other driving factors there, which is good because it keeps me on it and making it happen. And then I'm always so happy that I did, I'm always like, oh,
Right.
okay, I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I sat down and completed that because this conversation needs to be heard. So, it's good. It's good. And did I see that you have a video that kind of helps people learn how to get started if they want to make their own YouTube channel?
Um,
Or I thought I saw something like that in your blog or maybe
I have it on my website.
on your
So I
website.
haven't made a video about it, and it is actually an idea that I've been toying around with,
Okay.
because I get lots of questions and emails. I want to start a YouTube channel. Where do I
Mm,
start? And I don't have the ability to answer everybody. I don't have the time. And it's not because I don't want to help, because I
right.
certainly do. I would love to be able to help you, but I've got to be able to help you in a way that is efficient for me,
Mhm.
right? Because again, if I say yes to helping you, even just by answering that email with all the details, then I'm saying no to something else, and
Right.
that I might not be able to say no to other things, or I might not want to. So
Mhm.
what I have done on my website, up at the top of the page, there's a section that says YouTube help, I think is what I called it.
Mm.
And underneath there, the frequently asked questions that people ask me, I'm just tossing up there with the answer. And so if you're like, I have a live stream and I can't figure out how to turn off automatic ads that are coming into the live stream. Oh, it's right there. There's the answer for you. And it's a couple of clicks. Just open
Yeah.
it up and find it. And I struggle a little bit, because I kind of I waved between, I don't even know if that's the right word, but I kind of go between, I should make a whole video series on how to do the thing, how to help you set up a YouTube channel, how to understand how to navigate YouTube as a maker, as a
Mhm.
content creator, how do you blend those two things? But then the other part of me goes to, if I did that, this is a different niche. And
Mhm.
what is that going to do to my algorithm on YouTube?
Mhm.
What is that going to do to my whole world? Because not every quilter out there wants to be a content creator. It's
Right.
a small population. So then does that turn into a separate channel? Okay, well, maybe it does. Now, if I put time into making those videos, what quilting videos am I not able to make? What
Right.
quilts am I not able to make? And it just becomes this whole cycle. And so I
Mhm.
always end up with, no, I'm not going to do it. I want to, but I
Yeah.
can't do everything I want to do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I I just I try to take I just try to take the frequently asked questions that we have, some tips and tricks that I have as I have time, put them on the website because that's usually pretty easy to toss up, much easier
Mhm.
than a video. And then I just encourage people to dig, to
Yeah.
try to find the answer themselves. I didn't know how to record a video. All I had was a phone and an iPad. That's all I had when I started. I didn't know how to edit it. I didn't know how to upload it. I didn't know how to make a thumbnail. I didn't know how to do a live stream. I didn't know how to do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
But by asking some folks questions, and more importantly, and bigger than any of that, by going to Google and YouTube, I was able to learn just about everything because I promise you there is a channel and a video for just about anything you want
Mm.
to learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I got one on you quilting, so somebody's got one on how to make YouTube videos. Go
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. No, for sure, and I think that's the greatest part of YouTube, and, like, I put this show on YouTube because it's like,
Yep.
well, not everybody just wants to listen, like, I love to watch people have conversations, like, I wanna
Yes.
see the person's face, I wanna try to understand them on a deeper level when they're talking, like, I think just hearing their voice doesn't always do the person full justice, you know?
Yep.
So, that was a choice, you know, my husband was strongly encouraged. He's like, "You really gotta get this thing on YouTube." And I was like, "Okay, that's fine." Like, I don't want anything fancy. Like, I just want the focus to be the conversation. I don't need fancy edits. I don't need like crazy transitions or, I just need something basic that I can do every time, you know? And it takes learn. Thankfully, he knew it, so he could teach me, but I had to learn a lot of things on my own too. And
Yep.
um, but I think you are saying yes in a way by putting the information out there and on your website, making it accessible to everybody who wants to ask you the questions, and you're you're working smarter. You're not making it harder on yourself while still saying, I mean, yes in my way. Like, here's how I
Yep.
can say yes.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's not a full stop no. It's a here's how I can make this accessible for me and you. And I like that because you're finding the solution that works for you while also helping other people. So that's
Yep.
really cool. And so obviously I'll link your website in the show notes so people can go check it out if they have curiosities about that. Um but yeah, it's work and you have to figure out, how to best present yourself and what's going to catch people's attention and what's gonna keep their attention because they might click on your video, but they might not watch past 30 seconds, and
Yep.
then what do you do? And there's just a whole thing to it.
There is, and that is so much one of the things I will spill this. I will share this. One of the things that I am learning or have learned and keep learning again is what makes your channel or your videos good is not the fact that you could make a quilt. It's not the fact that you have a fancy camera. It's
Mhm.
not the fact that you have a fancy microphone. It's your personality.
Yep,
You got to find a way to reach your audience, connect with them, and get their attention and then keep their attention and
yep,
make them want to come back for more. That is what makes your channel worth watching again. They
yeah,
have to want to watch you. Some of those quilters are going to stick around and watch you make a quilt because they like watching quilts being made, but your personality is what's going to draw more people in.
yeah,
My goal, I would love it. Listen, okay, I don't make soap. I love telling the story. I don't make soap, but I watch I watch Katie from Royalty Soaps make soap all the time because I love her personality. I have no desire to make soap. I have no
yeah,
desire to build it. I have no desire to do any of that stuff, but I'll
yeah,
watch her 100% of the time.
mhm,
I don't like I don't make things out of wood. I don't do wood turning, but I will watch those content creators because I like their personality. And so for me it is a mix. My formula for my videos has to be a good blend of personality,
mhm,
maybe some education for somebody out there. I'm not going to be able to teach everybody everything, but maybe a couple of people get a tip or a trick. And then it just has to be something that I enjoy doing that you want to watch. So if I can
yeah.
morph all of that into that Venn diagram, I don't know why I'm talking with my hands, but for those of you that are listening and not watching, I'm talking with my hands. Um, yeah, it's all of those things. If I can get a good blend of something that's entertaining and
Mhm,
educational that you enjoyed watching and I enjoyed making, then we've got success. Whether it blows up or not, I don't care.
right. Right, because ultimately, if you're finding your people and you've got a strong community of supporters who show up video after video, then that to me is worth more than having 100,000 subscribers who don't ever engage. Like, I'd rather know that the people that are subscribed to my channel are actually watching and listening to the the conversations and the videos that I'm putting out, because it's like
Yep.
it's not worth it to me to build a false community because you just end up with trolls and people who are there for the wrong reasons. And when you're trying to build something that's positive and uplifting and, you know, people who find each other and can hold each other accountable for their creativity goals. And, it's like there's just so many things that could come from it. It's like, why break that with trying to push for fake followers? So
Yep.
I'm with you. I think you can open up and let your personality shine and still don't worry about what other people are doing and make the content you want to make, show the things you want to show. I think that's kind of where success falls, because then people can tell when you're full of shit. Like, they can tell when you don't really believe what you're talking about or saying or showing. So you just have to stay true to yourself, really, I guess.
Authenticity. The
Yeah.
the thing that keeps going through my head right now is your vibe will attract your tribe, right?
Yep.
So just put your vibe out there and your tribe will find you. It might take them a year, it might take them 5 years, it might take them 10 years, but they will eventually find you.
Yeah.
And as your tribe starts to find you, that tribe will get bigger and bigger and maybe bigger. So I don't have 100,000 subscribers as of the recording of this episode. I don't have 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, but that is a goal. So if
Yeah.
you want to help me grow that goal,
Yeah. Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, if this helps, then hey, I did my part. You
well, I
know?
just want the plaque. And then my husband asked me when I first started making videos, I didn't
Mhm.
even have 1,000 subscribers at the point. But when I first started doing that, he was like, I think I was getting close to 1,000. And
Mhm.
then I hit the 1,000. And in the world of YouTube, they give you the milestones. Your first milestone is 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
Yay, you hit 1,000. And then the next one is like 5 digits, like 10,000. Nothing really big happens, but it's a milestone that a lot of creators tend to chase. And then the only one that you can really chase after that is 100,000.
It's
And it is a
huge.
big jump from
Yeah.
10 to 100.
Exponential.
It's oh my gosh, it's so big. So
Yeah.
my husband was asking me somewhere less than 10,000 subscribers, but I don't remember where it was. I think I was in the nines.
Mm.
And he said, when do you feel like you will have made it? And I was like,
Mm.
I don't know how to answer that question. But in the back of my head, I'm like, I just want the plaque. Can I just get the plaque? Like, I don't think I'm ever going to quit. I like, as long as this is something that I enjoy doing and it's something that you enjoy watching, then I'm going to be here.
Yeah.
Whether it's on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, whatever the case may be,
Mhm.
but I do want the plaque.
Yeah.
So I think the answer to the question is I know I will have made it when I have a silver plaque hanging on the wall behind me.
Yeah. Right? I know. I'm like, "Oh, I've got high hopes, but I'm gonna keep them high because I don't see why not." Like, I don't see
No, yeah,
why. And I
who
think
cares?
the younger quilters that come in that want to engage with social media and they want, like, a a friend to sew with. Maybe they don't
Yeah.
have anybody else near them that sews, and so they can hop on your live stream, or, they can find other quilters that are in their community that like the same things they like. They can build their own communities within the community that you're building, and, like, I don't see why you can't get there, so I'm
You know,
gonna
I have some so I do a couple of things with my platform brand, whatever.
Mhm,
On the channel, YouTube offers channel memberships.
mhm,
Right? So you can pay once a month to or pay every month to get perks that are offered to you through YouTube
mhm,
that the content creator can design. Fine, whatever. I have that, but I also have a monthly membership over on my website for $5 a month. It's basically, I would equate it to like a guild.
mhm,
So for $5 a month, you get to sew with me on Zoom once a month. And then every 3 months, we do a weekend long retreat. Sometimes it's UFO, sometimes it's work in progress, sometimes it's a project that we're going to work on together, but it's every 3 months,
mhm.
a full weekend that you can join, start Saturday morning and Sunday night, goes through the night. So you don't have to pack up and go to a retreat, but then you also
Right.
get access to all my patterns. And so the thing
Um,
that's really cool about this is because we're on Zoom, you're
yeah.
getting to meet people over video conferencing software in these Zooms that you talked to in the live streams.
Hmm.
And out of that, I'm starting to see these sub communities, just like you were talking about, blossom, right? You're seeing people that never knew each other that are coming together, they're forming friendships, and now they're quilting besties because of a membership program or because of the YouTube live streams that you're hosting.
Yeah.
There's a couple of girls that I'm just going to mention by name, Jennifer and Susan. Jennifer lives in Canada, Susan lives in Houston, and the two of them met each other through quilting live streams and retreats that they happened to go to. And
Yeah.
now they're best friends and they do all of these wonderful quilting things together. But they met because some quilters out there created content that they could watch together.
Yeah.
Is that great?
It's magical.
It
It's so
is.
magical. I love it.
It is.
Yeah. It's so cool. And it's so fun to see that happen. Like when people really find each other and click and just like,
Yep.
you don't have to be in the same town or state or
Country.
country even. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
To find your people. And I think that's the beauty of social is that you can find people outside of your bubble
Yep.
to stretch your thinking and help you grow and be your cheerleader and I just love that about this space is that there's just so much of that and there's so many people open and willing to embrace you and to join your community or have you join theirs and bring you in and help you find your joy in the quilting space because sometimes you can get burnt out or maybe you don't have a lot of people other people around you who you can quilt with or that you see eye to eye with on life and that can be hard to spend time around people who just don't have the same perspective as you or a similar enough perspective that you can really feel comfortable with each other and so being able to open up and get outside your own bubble is really cool and I love to see it happening. So, hey,
Me
Jennifer and
too.
Susan, I'm happy for you guys. That's
I
so
don't know,
cool.
like, can they leave? Well, they can leave comments on the video. Leave a
Yeah,
comment down below, Jennifer and Susan.
yeah. We want to hear from you. Oh man, that's so fun. I love it.
That's great.
I know. I'm like, because I know, like, I saw YouTube, you can, or yeah, you can do this subscription thing. And obviously, like, Patreon has that. Like, I have a
Yep.
Patreon. And right now, like, what you get as a paid patron is not a lot just because I'm like, okay, what do I have the capacity to provide? And at the end of the day, it's like you said, if I say yes to adding more content or making extra videos or doing all this stuff, it's like then I'm saying no to my husband. I'm saying
Yeah.
no to my fitness goals. I'm saying no to cooking dinner. I'm saying no to doing my laundry.
Yep.
And so I would love to be able to find a balance at some point where I am being like able to provide more so that maybe people feel like it's worth their $5. But as it is, like the it's just not there for me at the moment. And so it's encouraging talking to other people who have more thing like you have your live stream along with your content that you create and edit. And like I think I like that idea of not having to sit and edit something. And so I
Yeah.
have kind of been considering my own live stream, but I'm like, I don't even know what I would do. But like you
This
said,
right here,
exactly,
like, why
just
couldn't
chat
it
and
be this?
sew what I'm sewing, and who cares about the rest? It's just like a sit and sew. We all just sit and chat, and that's what I do with my in-person, local friends. So it's like when we have a sewing day, we just sit and sew, and sometimes one or two of us isn't sewing. We're just hanging out, or we're ironing for the other person that is actually sewing because we're not making anything, but we're still together and like
Yep.
so yeah, anyway, enough about me. What was I gonna say? Okay, you've mentioned your patterns several times. So you
Mhm.
write patterns.
I am very new to the pattern writing world.
Okay.
So I do not have a million, but I do have a few.
Okay.
And I personally am proud of them. So the past few that I've written, and I can't, I want to use the word design very loosely because there's only so many things that you can do with triangles and squares and rectangles before
Yeah.
you start to make things that look like something else
Yeah.
somewhere. And
Mhm.
so what I do is I take a quilt idea that either popped in my head or my mom wanted to make. My mom does sew, she quilts. She's only been doing it for a couple of years and I'm
Mm.
teaching her along the way. And so anything that I make, I need to make sure that the instructions work for my mom. And so
Mm.
I've been in the IT industry for a number of years
Okay.
and I'm an IT program manager by trade. That's what I do my 9 to 5 in. But the experience that's gotten me to this point has been teaching, technical writing, testing
Mhm.
other people's step by steps, writing desk reference guides, all of those things. And before I got my degree in IT, I actually majored in education because that's what I
Oh.
wanted to do. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I used to force my brother and sisters to play school all the time. They hated it. They absolutely hated it, but it was my passion. I I wished I would have known better. When I was in college, I majored in education and I thought, okay, I skipped a couple years because I did a vocational school, whatever. But
Mhm.
I was 20 years old when I started school and I majored in education. I was like, okay, what grade do I want to teach? I was like, I don't want to teach high school and I really don't want to teach middle school. Let's go for the easiest route possible. And I signed on for
Mhm.
primary education. So that was going to be my major.
Mhm.
And then I got about 30 credits under my belt and I
Mm.
had to go audit a classroom for an entire semester. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, which grade would I want to do? Oh, kindergartners are easy. I babysit preschoolers all the time. Girl, I left that classroom and went to the counselor and changed my major. I was like, nope, nope, we're good. So
Yeah.
I've always had that passion to teach. I've always been excited about that. So
Mhm.
when I write those patterns, I like to take the experience that I have teaching
Mhm.
in the IT world, teaching my mom to quilt, the experience that I have technical writing, writing
Yeah.
step by steps, illustrating those, and putting those into a format that is very easy to read. When
Yeah.
I get a pattern, I don't want to read paragraphs. I
Yeah.
want to know step by step, what do I need to do? I don't want to dig for the information. I need to have it right there. And so
Yeah.
that's what I'm focusing more of my patterns on. It's really writing it to the point where you know exactly what you need to do. And if you're seasoned enough,
Mhm.
you should be able to figure out what you're doing just from the illustrations, and you might
Nice.
not even need to read the step by steps,
Ooh, I love that. I love when I can
right?
figure out, what to do from the diagrams because the diagrams are good enough that I don't need to read the
Yes,
steps.
yes, yep,
That's
yep,
my favorite
yep.
type of pattern. I'll read, obviously, the instructions, but I'm more of like, if I can look at the diagram and figure out the flow, I'm like,
Yep.
"Oh, God bless this person because this is my kind of instructions."
Yep, 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 yep. So my when I say I'm writing patterns, what I'm embracing and what I'm
Mhm.
giving myself the credit to claim is not that I came up with a unique quilt design that somebody else out there hasn't done ever before, because somebody's always going to have done something. You can only do so many things with triangles, rectangles, and squares.
Yeah.
What I am giving you is a very well laid out set of instructions. I've
Mhm.
done the quilt math for you. I've done the cutting instructions for you. I've done the yardage for you. And I've helped organize all of those instructions into a way that helps you do the thing without having to think too much.
Yeah.
So my skill or my service is in the technical writing, not the unique design. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's great because sometimes people just want you know, they just wanna do the thing, and if they're overwhelmed by the instructions or, like you said, paragraphs of information,
Oh my
when
gosh.
they just wanna know what to cut, what do I cut? Like,
Yes.
then if that's laid out and they can make the quilt, then perfect, like Some people just want to make the quilt. They don't care about your life story necessarily in that moment. They might later, but when they're trying to figure out how to cut the fabric that they just bought to make this quilt that they want to make, they don't need all that extra information. And some people really love that, which is fine, but I I'm of the approach of like, let's work smarter. Let's make things easier for people. Let's make things more accessible
Yeah,
because if they're always kind of ethereal and like in the clouds and all it's shrouded in all this extra information, you're leaving out an entire group of people who just can't do that. They cannot read through all of that information
I
to
can't.
access what they need.
Oh, absolutely. By Annie's patterns, by the way, are an example for me of a pattern that I can't read. I
Mm,
need to see it. Beautiful bags,
yeah.
beautiful bags, but I can't get over how it's written. It's too verbose. There's too much there.
Mhm.
There's not enough illustrations. There's a lot of words, and it just confuses my mind, and I just have a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
I know that sometimes there's neat lessons to be shared. There's more information that you should give for people to have context. And so for me, when I decide to do the technical writing to put a quilt together to write that pattern, I'm always going to accompany it with a tutorial video that is free on my YouTube channel. And so
Mm.
I've got a pattern I'll show you, and it will have dropped by the time this airs.
Okay,
I've
great.
got a quilt that I'm working on now using the Everglow fabric from Tula
Oh,
Pink. Oh,
yes.
right.
Oh,
And
man.
so these are the quilt
Ah,
blocks, right?
oh
Really, really
my.
simple.
Yeah,
Really, really simple.
but
The
so
secondary,
beautiful.
yeah. The secondary pattern here is going to come in when you add the sashing and the cornerstones. It's going to have like a lattice effect, and I'm really excited about that. And so I'm
Okay.
putting this together. It's not a design that nobody else has ever done. I'm sure people have figured out how to snowball a block before.
Yeah.
The video tutorial that I'm making for this has all of those tips and tricks, and the extra flowery language that belongs in the video, not the pattern to me. If it's important
Yeah.
enough to put it in the pattern, I just like to separate it out from the step by steps, right? So
Yeah.
in the video, I give you more tips and tricks, and I show you how to put it together. Because like I said, sometimes when I'm thinking about those by Annie patterns, right?
Mhm.
They're great, they're beautiful, but I can't figure out the written instructions. I need to
Mhm.
see somebody do it. And so I feel like if I give you the free video, you bought the pattern, all you really need to do is follow the cutting instructions. And if you've got the fabric cut out and labeled the way the pattern is, you can follow along with the video tutorial and put the whole thing together. You don't even need to read the pattern. But if you
Yeah.
want to, it's there.
That's so great. I love that. And thank you for doing that because I think that is I can listen to somebody talk about what they're doing, showing me how to do it. Like that's how I can absorb instructions. It's yeah,
Yes,
but like
same.
trying to figure out the text of like saying it all and I'm like I literally don't know what this is saying right now. But then
Yep.
if I somehow see it or if I've done it because I'm like fumbling my way through, then I can see how it works. I'm like, okay, now I see what they're trying to
Yep.
say because I've seen it physically in person. So it just takes on a whole different thing. And I love that you're creating that for people so that they can accessibly make the quilts that you want to design and put out
Absolutely.
there. So that's so cool. And that quilt is going to be so cute. I freaking love
I'm
Tula
really
Pink.
excited. Listen, I've leaned into I have EQ8 and I do use it
Mm,
for like foundation paper piecing templates because I think it's great for that. But
yeah.
I really have started to love playing with Pre-Quilt because it's a web-based software that you can use to design quilts and lay things out. And I've started to learn a little bit more about it, even
Hmm.
to the point where I can pull in fabric swatches and scale them to be a certain spot in the block. So I already know how this quilt's going to look when it's all done. And I'm really excited because I even know exactly where the lions are going to go, where the drafts are going to go. And I can see the quilt has kind of this gradient effect for me.
Uh-huh.
Oh, so good. And I'm really excited about this too, because this is an exercise in cutting Tula fabric. So one of the things that has helped really held me back with Tula is those prints are beautiful, but
Hmm.
they're big and I never know how to cut them.
Yeah.
So I get terrified, I get paralyzed, and I never cut it into the fabric. It just sits
Same.
there. So I was like,
Same.
what if the star of the quilt, what's going to show, what if the hero of the quilt, as Angela Walters likes to say,
Mhm.
is Fussy cutting a piece of fabric. So let's
Yeah.
just think about how big does that piece need to be, and then we'll work everything else around it. And
Yeah.
so this quilt in particular, which I think call trellis squares, this quilt in particular just starts with 6.5-inch pieces of fabric of a really big print that you want to showcase, and
Mm.
everything else will come together.
Yeah. I love that. 'Cause yeah, I that's what has been my hesitation with a lot of my Tula is I'm like, I
Yeah,
can't cut it. Like it has to be the right pattern or I'm gonna lose the whole effect of why this fabric even exists. And so,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, like in my mind, this pattern is for Tula, it's for Kaif, it's for
Mm.
anybody else that makes that really big print that you don't want to lose. It's
Ruby
this.
Star.
There you go.
Oh,
Yep.
baby. Oh, good. I'm excited. That's so fun. And
Fussy
yeah, like,
cutting.
yeah, if you're into that, it's hard. Like I mentioned, I made one EPP project and it was a another Holly Clark design because she did the Christmas spectacular. She designed one of the blocks for that quilt this last year, 23. And hers was a wreath and it was EPP little pentagons. And I was like, I had this scrap of one of the rifle paper Christmas
Love
fabrics
rifle
because it
paper.
was the backing of my Miranda's quilt. She's the one who was on the show with me before. Um, and she just let me keep the end of it because it was she, trimmed her quilt and I was like, "Can I keep that?" She was like, "Yeah, for sure." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." And so it's like all the Nutcracker characters. And so I like fussy
Oh,
cut each one of them out with what I could out of the piece I had and it's like the Rat King and the Nutcracker and Clara and all the other sugar plum fairies and all that. And it was really fun, but very difficult. But it's
yeah.
like but also I was, like, so excited to be able to showcase those little characters because then it's like it's cute when it's whole cloth, but if you cut it up or whatever, you might miss certain characters, and this way I could handpick, and I think with fussy cutting anything, like, you get to handpick what's in there, and even this quilt that's in this chair behind me,
Hmm.
this is the first time I intentionally fussy cut something because I wanted these,
Oh,
they're
so pretty.
triceratops heads. This is Caterina Rochella, her Esoterra line, and I saved it for a long, long time. And this was one of her patterns that I tested for her. The first test I ever did was for her. And um, anyway, so I fussy cut my pink
Mm,
Triceratops heads to be
love it.
in those blocks. And so anyway, that was a lot of talking just to say fussy cutting school. And
Well, this is the first quilt that I fussy cut for, and
okay.
it was I had to embrace. You mentioned this before. I had to be willing to mess around and find out. I had to be
Mhm.
willing to do it because there was going to be waste. I wasn't going to be able to save everything, and not there was going to be times where I was going to cut through the middle of a giraffe head. But it
Yeah.
had to be okay to do that because the one I wanted was dead center, right?
Yeah.
So once I embraced that there was going to be waste,
Hmm.
and that some of the giraffes or the tiger, I'm sorry, lions or whatever, hippos, whatever, were not going to be usable
Hmm.
because of the way I was placing my ruler, it was okay. Once I
Hmm.
gave myself that permission to say, okay, listen, we're only going to deal with a quarter of a yard here. The rest of it's going to go on the shelf. So if I need to get more, I can get more. And if I really need more and I don't have it on the shelf, I can always buy more. It might cost more money than it did when it first came out because now it's out of print, but
Yeah.
I can always find more fabric or find something else that works. But I'm never going to be able to do this until I try it.
Yeah.
And so I just had to suck it in and get the rotary cutter out and cut. And I'm pleased that I did. There were some
Yeah.
that didn't come out as great, but it wasn't that hard. It was just the idea of doing it. You just
Yeah.
had to do it.
Yeah. You just gotta try. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brave. Because
I
yeah,
did
you're
it
right.
with Tula fabric. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Well, and that's like I literally made a a quilt with I had a fat quarter bundle of her all-stars when she originally, like, re-released them, and I didn't wanna cut them up, so I literally just sewed all the fat quarters together, and I made this monstrosity of a quilt that is not square, and I kept the selvages on even so you can see bits of the selvage, like, which I'm fine with. I wanted it that way, you know? And so, because I was like, I held on to it for so long, and I was like, "I'm never gonna find the perfect quilt to make with this, and I don't wanna cut into them, so I'm gonna just sew them together so I can just look at them forever." But now I'm like, "Okay, what do I do with my De La Luna sisters? What do I do with my Zuma? What do I do with my" it's like, "Okay, ma'am, you need to, like, make things." But it's hard
The
when
De
you it's
La
like
Luna sisters, yes.
yeah,
That would be great for this pattern. I bought for the Nightshade line when it came out. I
yeah,
was at a retreat in July of last year, July 2023. And this retreat that we go to, we usually take one day to do quilt shop hop.
mm,
So we go into a quilt shop, and while I was there, in the back, they have their receiving area next to their clearance area. So I'm looking at the clearance fabric, and laid out on the table right there were all of the bolts of Nightshade. They had just come in. And I
mm,
was like, can I please get this? They weren't even unwrapped. They hadn't been checked in or whatever. They're like, no, it's not been received yet. I was like, I want a yard. I'm going to buy a whole 1 yard, but I mean, there's only 8 pieces, so it was
but
easy. But I was
still,
like, I want to buy a 1 yard of each one. Like, I would love to. And they're like, no, it's not been checked in. So I was like, okay. So I left and I didn't buy it. Well, later that night, I guess they knew I don't know how they knew where we whatever. I don't know how they knew, but they knew where we were staying.
yeah.
And so later that night they called the retreat center and told them that I could come back and buy the fabric because it had been inventoried. I was like, that's a 45-minute drive. I'm set. I already bought it online.
You're like, "Sorry, you had your chance, bro."
You did. I was standing right there. All you had to do is be like, yes, I will sell you a 1 yard bundle of this entire collection. Give me a half an hour to check it in, or
Right?
come back in 2 hours, go to another quilt shop. Like, whatever, do the
Right,
thing to make the sale. Come on, that's what
right.
you're here for.
Yeah,
So,
honestly. Like, I get that people like, shops have their processes or whatever, but when you've got somebody standing there being like, here's $100. Can I please have that fabric?" And they're like, I don't know." I'm like, "Your literal whole existence is to sell me this stuff. Like, what are you doing?"
I
Ugh.
think I wonder, like, I wonder if the person I was talking to was just an employee, and then the owner or the manager got wind of what happened and was like, "Oh, no, 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 let's get that sale. Let's get that sale.
"You call her right now.
Track her down."
How dare
Oh,
you?" Oh,
wow.
man, that's funny. But, yeah, it's like you gotta do what you gotta do to get your fabric, especially with prints like Tula because once they're gone, they're
Gone.
gone, and then if you try to find it, it's like a gazillion dollars.
$15 for a fat quarter. May have just spent $15 per fat quarter for 3 fat quarters in a D-stash group. Do I regret it? Nope.
Yeah. It's like if it's something you really want and it's valuable to you, then go for it. I think I was at a point where I'm like, "I should just sell this Tula that I have," and then I was like, "That's nuts." I bought it because I love it, and I'm gonna eventually make something with these things. It's just like, again, finding the right pattern or finding the right way to, like, be able to fussy cut things to feature them, and
Yep.
I think I'm gonna just I've got my because it's that again, it was a fat quarter, but I was, like, die hard, always on Fat Quarter Shop waiting for their, flash sales, and they used
Mm.
to have a ton of Tula in those flash sales, and so I have jelly rolls, I have Fat Quarter pa bundles, I've got, like,
Wow.
all these different, like, hexie packs of just all different Tula prints because they would put them on sale, and I would go grab them when they were $10 or $8 or whatever, and, um, so that's how I got Nightshade. And, like, the original Nightshade because, of that cool sale that they used to do all the time.
Oh,
And, so I have my sister's fussy cut, and I'm gonna just wing it with the rest of the fabrics because it's like they're the ones that need to shine.
yep,
The rest of the fabrics can show up, but, like, I need these girls front and center,
yep.
and So I'll figure it out eventually. But anyway, it's like I I do love to see people designing patterns to be able to showcase special fabrics because there's a lot of designers that we all love and are diehard fans of. And when it's hard to find a pattern that lets those fabrics shine in the right way, it gets kind of discouraging. Like, oh, I have all this fabric, but what do I even do with it now? Like,
Mhm.
how do I make it be more meaningful in a quilt than just on the bolt or in folded up so I can pet it and look at it?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
It's definitely a thing, and as you're talking through this, like, one of the other things that I'm thinking about is, like, since the pattern is still in as of the recording of this
yeah.
episode, it's still being written, I'm still testing it, but why couldn't I give instructions for different size fussy cut, right? Because
Mm,
it's a simple, simple block.
yeah.
Right now, it's assuming that that center piece will finish at 6 inches, but what
Mhm.
if I gave you instructions and fabric requirements for a piece that needed to finish at 10 inches, like, in the center? So if
Yeah.
you have a layer cake and you just want to throw the layer cake together, maybe I could do that as an alternate size. I don't know. More to come. If you want to see if that actually happened, you'll have to go
Yeah.
look, but I don't know. But I think I'm encouraged by hearing you say that you like the idea of seeing a pattern that allows your fabric to shine. And so maybe that's something that I can lean a little bit more into with some future ideas.
Oh, yeah, that would be really cool. And I will be happy to see if that happens and comes to fruition because I think I obviously know like then that takes a whole nother level of writing and more instructions and more quilt math and all that stuff. So if that does happen, then that would be so cool because I think that's like that is one of the things that keeps me from buying certain fabrics sometimes is I'm like, I don't have a plan for it. And I don't want to be one of those hoarders that when I'm dead and people are having to go through my stuff, they're like, oh, look at all this old fabric. Like
Yep.
nobody wants this anymore. I that's like something I don't want to do or pass on. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be things that in that vein, but still it's like, am I going to use this? Is there something I have in mind that will allow me to use this in the way I want to use it? And
Mhm.
is it going to be worth my time to hold on to this? So,
Yep.
um,
And even if one of the other things that I like to be able to do, at least in my videos, is help you understand the formula,
mm,
help you understand the equation that gets you where you need to be. So, for example, I had Ian, off Kilter Crafter, and Tiffany from Tiffany's Quilting Life. We had gone to QuiltCon together, and afterwards we spent a week together here at my home, and we had a blast. It was a lot of fun. But while we were here, we did a friendship braid quilt, and I made a tutorial for it. I did not put a pattern out there because there's a million patterns for friendship braids out there, and this was one of those things where people had asked me, "Please put one out," and I'm like, "But there's free ones, so why should I?" And I have to give myself the grace that what I'm providing you is not a unique quilt design.
mhm,
It's instructions in the way that I would teach them. So anyway, I didn't
mhm,
do it. Not out there. Do have a project sheet on my website, but we have the video tutorial. And in that video tutorial, what I started off by telling you is I don't want to teach you how to make this friendship braid quilt. You can by the end of the video, but what I want to help you understand is the process of
mm,
how to build a braid so that you can make the braid the way you want it to look, the width, the length, all the things.
yeah,
And so maybe that's an element of the tutorial. In fact, I can already tell you it will be, but that's going to be an element of the tutorial that I put together for this one, right? So if
yeah,
you want to take the block design that I've made, but make it your own with a bigger hero print,
mhm,
maybe I can show you some of the steps that you could use to work out the math and do the formula yourself.
yeah, yeah. It's like, feed a person, they eat for a day, teach them how to get their own food or
Yep.
teach them how to do their own math or whatever, then they can do it themselves whenever they want.
Yeah.
It's not dependent on you, it's not dependent on anybody else's pattern. Specifically, it's a skill that they can now have for themselves to use over and over again whenever they choose. And I love that. I love that because I think ultimately when you boil down teaching, it's that element of like, I'm not just showing you how to regurgitate something, I'm showing you how to take on a skill so that you can be
Yep.
a better version of
Yes.
yourself. and
Yes,
you can implement it how it fits into your life. It's not about how it works for me, it's about how it works for you. And
absolutely.
so being able to impart that on people, I think is that's the thing, that's the kernel of what teaching is. And so whatever capacity you're doing it, if that's how you're approaching it, then I think that you're doing it right, in my opinion. In my humble opinion, my master's degree opinion.
Well, I appreciate that because that's kind of what I think too. Like I know that there are people out there that just want to follow the steps. They
Yeah,
just want to make the quilt. They
yeah,
just want a pattern. They don't want, and it's not that they're not picking up the skills as they're going, but they
right.
want somebody to tell them, do this, now do
Mhm,
this, and do
mhm.
this. I'm not that person. I don't do well with having, I hate to call it mundane, but mundane, like I want to be able to explore. And so for me, patterns are launching off points. I'm going to follow the cutting instructions.
Yeah,
I'm going to look to see how the blocks put together, and I'm going to do it my way.
mhm,
Or I'm going to do it the way I need to. And then I'm going to find happy accidents along the way that are going to end up being part of the design element, or I'm
yeah,
going to switch it up because I don't want to just keep doing the same thing over and over again. I get
right.
bored when I make quilts that are the same block
Me
30
too,
times, right?
me too.
It's too much. So,
Mhm.
um, anywho, all that to say, I understand that not everybody is interested in learning how to figure out the formula. And so I want
Yeah,
to cater to that audience as well. But I
yeah,
also want to help you understand how I got there so that if you do want to learn, you're picking up the skill and building that foundation along the way.
yeah. That's so great. That's so great. I'm so excited, and I can't wait to see that quilt finished because it's gonna be so gorgeous,
It's
and
so pretty. It's so pretty.
ugh,
I mean, I already know what it's going to look like, so
yeah,
I'm already excited, but you'll have to
yeah.
wait.
Yeah. The rest of us, however well, like you said, it'll be out by the time this comes
Yep.
out, so we'll get to see it, and while we're listening to this, we can be admiring your quilt in the same time, so it'll be
Yeah, I
great.
mean, you can stop watching the video or and just go to the website, or you can have no, I'm just
Yeah.
teasing.
Right?
Don't stop watching the video. Keep watching the video. When
Finish
you're
and
done,
then
it'll be
go.
on my website and
Yeah.
it'll be on my YouTube channel and it'll be on Instagram and
Yeah.
so.
Right? Oh my gosh. Well, I'm very excited, and I am so grateful that you were able to be on the show with me today, and I have loved getting to chat with you and get to know you, and sounds like we have a lot of kind of quilty ideas in common, and it's always fun to find more and more people that just help expand the love of quilting and are doing it in ways that make it accessible for people. And so yeah, it's just so great to actually get to like meet you and talk to you.
Well, it was great. Now I'm tongue tied.
It
It was great
happens.
talking to you too. And I'm so excited because it sounds like you'll be in Phoenix in February 25, and I'll be there too. So we'll get to meet in person and give each other stickers and hugs
Yeah.
and take
Yes.
photos together and all the things. So
Yeah.
thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. And like I said before, I will put the link to your website, and I'll tag your YouTube channel in my YouTube channel and
Woo!
or in the show notes, and then people can get to you and go check out your patterns and your videos from there. And in the meantime, we'll stay in contact. And yeah, I'm so excited for February, and I love getting to meet the guests of the show in person. Like that was just the best part of QuiltCon this year for me. So I'm really excited for next year to just grow the Not Your Granny's Quilt Show community and hug even more people. And yeah, it'll be great.
It's going to be awesome.
Okay, well, we'll chat again soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amanda.
Thank you. Have you joined Patreon yet? Well, if not, head over to www.patreon.com/notyourgranny's quilt show to join. You can join for free. You'll get access to me, to the community, and you can interact with each other. I also share a phone wallpaper that I design each month for you guys. It's free. It comes with free membership, so you get to enjoy it. If you join as a paid patron, you get early access to the week's episodes and you get a Not Your Granny's Quilt Show sticker sent right to your door. So head over to patreon.com/Not Your Granny's Quilt Show and join today. Also, while you're at it, you can check out the merch shop. I love everything. I know I've said this so many times, and I'm going to keep saying it because I wear my pieces over and over again. So I know that they're good, high quality pieces for you that I would never sell to you if I didn't love them. I've designed them all with the show in mind. So please head over, check it out, and see if there's anything you love. There's stickers, there's mugs, there's sweatshirts, t shirts, tote bags, anything you can think of that you might want to show your support of Not Your Granny's Quilt Show podcast. So head on over to nygqs.printify.me to check out the shop today. And now on to the episode.